Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this short talk at IMHX Connect 2021. It's great to be here today and thanks for tuning in. If you're leading change for your business, then this is the presentation for you. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about what I consider to be two of the most powerful concepts that I've seen investors use to justify large-scale change in their business. And if you can find a way to adopt these, either in part or in whole, into your own strategies, then I think you'll be off to a great start. Before we begin, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm a former strategy advisor to three of the UK's largest retailers. And over the last 25 years, it's fair to say that I have been at the front and part of some of the most innovative and exciting change that the high street has seen. As you know, working in retail is dynamic and you don't know what's around the corner. And this has meant securing investments in what are often volatile and unpredictable situations. Today, in my current capacity as Vice President for a global automation provider, I'm in the unique position of being engaged with some of the brightest thinkers and leaders from some of the most innovative organisations on the planet. So hopefully that's enough of a reason for you to give me 15 minutes of your time today. But just before we talk about these concepts, I want to take the chance to introduce TGW properly. TGW is a leader in the provision of automated logistics solutions. Founded in the late 60s by Ludwig Sinitz, who was himself an innovator in roller conveyor technology, the company today lives the values of its founder and is a constant disruptor and innovator in the industry. Its portfolio today is probably most renowned for its automated storage and retrieval systems, but it's often the King Drive conveyor technology, which was at the heart of the original business, that delights customers the most. Today, we're actively engaged in projects right across the planet with over 3,400 associates working on either the planning, the realisation, the software development or the servicing of our customer supply chains. And we consider ourselves the go-to experts for grocery and e-grocery fulfilment, fashion fulfilment and industrial and consumer goods fulfilment. Just in the last 4 years, TGW has received the Pegasus Award multiple times. It's received the acclaimed Austrian Robotics Award, an INO Award. It's won gold in the German Innovator Awards in 2019, the Plus X Award last year, and received the coveted International Innovation Prize for Ergonomics. Despite all of that, I would say that the team do try to be a modest bunch who have family values. And what I consider makes TGW to be unique in the industry is its status as a private foundation. This is a foundation which is committed to charitable work. TGW is a beacon for young people of all walks of life, of all backgrounds, to be able to follow their personal development goals to a promising, bright future. TGW makes this possible through its social and industrial projects programme. Okay, so let's get back to why we're here and let's get stuck into these big ideas. The first concept that I'm going to be sharing with you is the power of understanding how your customers behave. Okay, so let's imagine you're looking at investing in some kind of automation. The traditional benefits are process efficiency gains, time-saving gains, removal of processes, working capital reduction, removal of waste, right? You might even be projecting forward certain risks that are of value to your business, labour scarcity, training costs, higher rates of attrition in the future, that kind of thing. The bravest amongst you are probably thinking about lost sales as well, which is the idea that your logistics machine by keeping it running can prevent failures in the supply chain that cost you customer sales. The problem is actually there's lots of reasons why you might lose a sale, and it's very hard to attribute the investment in automation specifically with a reduction in lost sales. Did you know in the UK that the average cost to acquire a single new customer for a digital retailer is around £8? This is a blended cost of all the marketing costs, whether that's direct, out of home, email, TV, whatever the cost, it's that over the rate of customer acquisition. My advice would be to go and spend a day with some of your business's marketing team and see if you can find out what this number is for yourself. And while you're there, see if you can find out the rate of customer acquisition, the rate at which customers are switching out of your business, and the rate at which customers leave your business every year. You won't regret it. What you'll discover, what you might even be surprised to discover, is that customers, even for the biggest businesses on the planet, are relatively hard to keep. In fact, using the same group of company types that I've just mentioned, what you might expect to see is that a little over 1 in 10 of every new customers that you pay £8 to acquire will never, ever shop with you again. It's tough, but they just didn't like you. The chemistry wasn't right, or they bought in a moment of weakness, whatever you want to chalk it up to. It just wasn't meant to be. I'm sorry. What's even more distressing is when you get it wrong. And that could be in a really loose sense of the word. It might be that you just didn't have the right size in stock. It might be that you were 10 minutes late after you promised to be there at 2 o'clock. Or maybe one of the bananas is bruised. What's very alarming is that customers, on average, are only likely to let you slip up twice before they'll start looking over the fence at a competitor. And when they look, well, there's no saying what might happen. If they try somewhere else, then there's an 80% chance that they might stay there. It's really unfair, but there we are. We're a nation of switchers and silent grumblers who'd prefer to try something new than kick up a stink. Okay, that's fascinating, right? But what has this got to do with your business case? Well, if we just stick with the £8 customer acquisition figure for the moment, and like I say, you can work this out for yourself, right? So let's say we're a 500 million turnover business with, I don't know, 10 million active customers. Then I imagine your marketing team will be spending in the region of £1.5 million acquiring customers every year that the supply chain is losing through tiny mistakes, all of which on their own seem not to matter. But the point is that whilst they might seem like tiny numbers split out over many KPIs, imagine putting them all together and imagine every third mistake is actually costing you £8. Let's work out an example. Say you have delivery on time success rates of 98%. You'd be thrilled, right? Well, if you have 10 million active customers and say they shop 3 times a year, then over the next 12 months, you'll actually spend £160,000 just finding new customers to replace the ones that you've disappointed through not delivering on time. If your customers are shopping with you more than 3 times a year, then this figure could be a whole lot more. What about incorrect orders? What about lost orders? What about orders which are returned for stock quality issues? How many different ways can you think of for your business to disappoint a customer? It's a lot. Now, if you can get your head around it, you can get hold of these customer numbers from your marketing colleagues, then you have a real, tangible and quantifiable way to financially illustrate the concept of lost sales and to include the benefits that automation companies will be talking to you about, things like equipment resilience, uptime, error identification, whatever it is. The point is that you can now get your head around the benefits of automation investment to reduce customer disappointment. And this might just be worth as much, if not more, as the good old efficiency gains business case. And this is as well as, right? It's not instead. So it's a win-win. Great idea. Okay, so the second concept is more about the state in which a business is in when it's looking to make the big investment, and how you, as a change leader, need to own your business culture. We can all think of them. There are just some businesses in our industry that always seem to be further along the journey of automation than you are, right? You might think this is because they spend more on R&D. Perhaps you think that they trial more, or they're structured differently, or perhaps you chalk it up to their market performance and think that they're just more prepared to invest right now. Of course, these things matter, but in my experience, that's only half the truth. What I would like to share with you today is a single common thread that ties these companies together, regardless of industry. It applies whether the businesses are small or large, whether they have large R&D teams or not, and frankly, it doesn't always seem to be connected to the share price. They are, however, all market leaders in the adoption of supply chain technology. The first common trait is that they are all open, both internally and externally, about the role which technology is playing today and what it needs to do for them to win in the future in the markets that they're in. They are talking openly with shareholders about developments which they intend to investigate and back. More than this, they talk quite openly about the problems which they're intending to fix. A great example of a business who does this well would be Next. If you read Next's latest annual report, you'll find the very first section is called The Big Picture. And in it, they talk openly about the state of the market, the problems that exist, and the extent of change that their business will need to go through to be a success. It's no coincidence that they're also a market leader in investing in supply chain technology. In their 2020 annual report, Ocado, who are one of our largest e-grocer strategic partners, talk openly about how their solutions will be ready for the future. Arguably the most technology-forward grocer in respect of their supply chain in the UK, their board talk constantly about the drive for innovation and the role that technology must play in their future success. The second common thread is a sense of real urgency. This urgency is absolutely paramount to these businesses' success. It helps get colleagues on board with the need to get behind innovation and technology programs, which ultimately may see roles being removed. And it gets them to do it in a proactive and positive way, knowing that it's for the greater good of the business. It's a kind of survival instinct. An environment of heightened urgency also dramatically adjusts the appetite of key decision makers in a business to take risks. It rebalances risk and reward. It forces decision makers out of their status quo of generally being risk adverse, and dials up an organisation's ability to confidently make investment decisions because they believe that they are right for the business and right for their customers, not just because they can see the benefits spread out for them in the lines on a graph. Without exception, the most effective operating boards are those who continually and actively seek to readjust our inherent natural dispositions for risk adversity, and they empower leaders to be brave and to be bold. Urgency. The final state of being is a natural follow-up from the successful adoption of the first two traits. It's more subtle, but it's also by far the most impactful. Probably the best way for me to describe this state to you is if I were picking up the phone. One business calls saying, "We're thinking about doing a business case to put automation in a new warehouse. We're considering a new shed and we want to know if automation stacks up or not, or if we should keep it manual, and we need your help." They might talk about robotics and say, we're considering doing some trials or some pilots on different technology too. The other business calls up. Now these guys, they say, we need to talk. We need to plan out our next depot. We think we know the technology that we want, and we want to talk to you about the program. It's got to be built fast. The company knows what they want because they made that decision a long time ago. Their board are on board, and there's no need to persuade them of the benefits of the technology. They know it already. They've already worked out how much they want to invest, and now they want to deliver. There's no pilots, there's no trials. They learn, they adapt, and they fail fast, and they evolve even faster because they are continually looking forward and evaluating investments for the future before they happen. Sadly, I can say with some certainty that the business that seeks to make a large technology investment without the cultural groundwork often find themselves not getting the necessary support or engagement that they need to make a real success of the investment in the first instance, or to ensure that it delivers the right results in the long term. I look back on some of my own investment proposals and I consider the amount of cultural change required versus the amount of physical change. And sometimes the cultural work is significantly greater and more time consuming for the business than the actual physical change program. Now, I look around and I still see businesses now not even recognising the importance, let alone the enormity, of cultural readiness for large-scale technology adoption. And it worries me because the urgency that I've described is real. This concept is linked closely to design thinking. Design thinking is a human-centred approach to innovation, and so if this concept strikes a chord with you, then I would invite you to look it up and read some more. Thank you for joining me today. It's been great to be here and to be part of this IMHX Connect event and to be able to speak at what I consider to be one of the leading events for logistics globally. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you want to get in touch, then please do.